there, welcome to Pandemic Parenting. I'm Greg, and we got a really great show for you today. Today we're going to be talking with my very close friend, Sam Young, about passion-based learning and how you as parents can implement passion-based learning at home and how you can help get your kids involved in passion-based learning at school, and just little tips and advice along the way for really incorporating this style of learning into your life. All right, so I got a great little recording for us today. And just remember, just because I am going to be playing a recording of our interview doesn't mean I'm not going to be sitting here live with you right now. So if you're watching and you have any questions or comments, go ahead and drop them in the chat box. And maybe I'll even bring them up on screen and we can talk about it and I can answer any questions. So just because I'm playing the interview recording doesn't mean I'm not here with you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my good friend, Sam Young.
All right, hello and welcome to Pandemic Parenting. I am Greg Freeberry, your host, and I'm here today with Samuel Young, two-time Fulbright scholar, former history teacher at the prestigious Bridges Academy, and now owner and operator of Young Scholars Academy. Sam, welcome, and thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So, I like to kind of start the show by just asking a few fun questions, a little rapid fire game, if you will. So, if you bear with me.
Okay.
Let's see. What's the last movie you saw?
The new James Bond.
The new James Bond. How was it?
It was good.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Daniel Craig fan, but I
Okay.
really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I enjoyed this one.
Let's see. If you had a time machine, what year would you travel to and why?
That's a tough one.
I
probably
ask
like
the
to.
hard-hitting questions on here.
Yeah, I'd like to probably go back to like 1920s France. I think that'd be fun. Just kind of slip into some cafes and learn something from some.
Be very fancy. Huh?
Yeah. Something.
All right. Let's see. If like time and money were no object, what would you spend your whole day doing?
That's a tough one. Probably doing something to the effect of what I do, which is teaching.
Okay.
And spending time with family and surfing.
Okay. Amazing. All right, and then let's see. What's your favorite color?
Gray.
Gray, as we can see
I
here.
love gray.
And
Gray gets a bad rep. It's like you're feeling gray, but it's a great color.
what's your one favorite piece of wisdom out there?
You can fail at what you don't love, so you might as well take a risk on what you do.
Oh, awesome. Is that a quote from someone? Or?
It's actually from Jim Carrey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, now the audience got to know you a little bit better.
I feel warmed up.
All right, and so yeah, I just wanted to have you on because I know you're doing great things with your new online enrichment program at Young Scholars Academy, and I know you're a teacher for several years. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about like how you got into teaching and like what drew you to it and all that?
Yeah, it's a good question. When I was young, I actually wanted to be anything but a teacher. I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I wanted to be like an actor or an astronaut. And when I got to high school, this has happened in several junctures in my life, but I would look at the commonality of everything that I like to do. And I was always looking for the through line. What unifies everything? And there was always an element of sharing, teaching, and leading. In kindergarten, in middle school, in high school, again in college, and then as an adult. I always like to take what I know and empower other people to do it. And so time and time again, I just decided, well, that's the life for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, and then you ended up as a history teacher. Why history in particular? Was there something about history that drew you to it?
I was sort of, I think a lot of teachers get into education because they know something and they don't know what else to do with it, so they teach, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I love math, I don't know what to do with it, so I'll teach.
Yeah, kind of like me. Yeah, like me.
And I was like, I want to teach. What do I like the most? I sort of came at it, I think, from a different place. It seemed like the most sensible thing. It was the classes I always got the most out of, was the most interested in, and did the best in. So it was more pragmatic, perhaps, than passion. The passion was the teaching. History was just like the vehicle, I guess.
Gotcha. And since you're talking about passion, what is it about teaching that makes you so passionate about it? You've been in the game for a while now.
Yeah, I started teaching at 20. I had my first classroom at 20 years old.
Young buck.
I started very young. I would go out and meet people. I'd go to a bar and they'd be like, "What do you do?" And I'd be like, "I'm a teacher." And I'm like, "God, you look like you're still in high school." You know?
Yeah, I get that a lot still too.
I got in trouble with the principal once at my first school because I was texting in the hall. And he's like, "Young man, put your phone away." And he's like, "My God, Sam, I'm sorry." So the question, so passion.
Yeah. What makes you passionate about your work?
I just always enjoyed the sensation of leading and guiding other people and helping them learn. I love to share. I love to empower people, and I love the sensation of helping someone be their best selves. You know, there's something that I find supercharges my battery. I don't know, that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I very much resonate with that too. You know, like I was an engineer for a while and the whole desk job thing didn't really resonate with me, but I always felt called to service. I felt called to help people, and then kind of just stumbled into tutoring and teaching eventually. But when I really like actually explored that space, I was like, wow, this is like home. You know, because like you, I just really enjoy just helping people and like being able to be like, wow, like I impacted that person's life.
It's a great feeling, right? And it has to be to keep you coming back, right? And it is one of those things, again, in my own life that I keep coming back to, whether it's giving surf lessons or teaching virtually or starting an enrichment program or whatever it may be. It's always just kind of selfishly that I like the feeling of being an educator.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, you just mentioned your enrichment program. You actually made the bold move of actually leaving a nice, comfy teaching position, and you set out on your own and you created Young Scholars Academy, which is this amazing online enrichment program. So why don't you just share about like your decision to do that, and what does Young Scholars Academy bring to the table now?
Yeah, it wasn't the logical thing to do, certainly. I had taught for about 8 years, and I decided that at the 8-year marker I was going to do something bigger. I wanted to reach more people, and I had a mentor that was helping me essentially become a principal was my goal. Be director of a high school and then climb the ladder and become a principal. And my goal was to reach more people and help more. And it became apparent to me that, you know, I was on the wheel, right? Like every year, 100 kids come through my classroom and then they leave. And I wanted to be in a position where I could create like a climate, like create a culture that would reach, well, I wanted it to be infinite. And that didn't work out for me, actually. I ended up evaluating my life a bit more and thinking, you know, I don't know that I want to trade my whole entire life. A lot of the principals, and God love them, principals that are listening, thank you.
We love you, principals.
Yeah, it's tireless work, and it is your whole life. I mean, you are married to the school. And I wanted to find a way, maybe because I'm lazy, maybe because of the pandemic, maybe a couple different ways. I wanted to still get that satisfaction of being able to like scale and reach more students and serve more families. The pandemic helped me realize that there were a lot of marooned families that through technology I could reach. So the population that I work with, I've been working with for about 8-9 years now. It's twice exceptional learners. So these are learners that, if you picture someone like straddling the bell curve, right? Someone that has an exceptional gift, hence the first E, and an exceptional challenge, hence the other one. So they sort of have a foot on both ends.
Okay.
High IQ and ability, area or diagnosis, which prevents them probably from achieving at the level at which they are capable of.
Yeah, I taught one of those types of students at my school. He was like, 10 years old, and he was in my Algebra 2 class with all these like 16-year-olds, but then he'd like could barely tie his shoes or like left his lunchbox everywhere,
Yeah, it's the most exciting population on earth. I think that you have a group of people that have so much promise, ability, curiosity, yet they have this asynchrony where they may have the intellectual prowess of like a graduate student right at the age of 10, but then they have like the social emotional maturity of like someone their age, right, or younger. And that to me is like such a satisfying and exciting population. I see them very much at like the vanguard, like the very edge of like neuroscience and learning. And so it's an exciting place to be. But to answer your question, I decided that I was going to continue to work with this population, and I was going to use Zoom, which we all were forced to embrace so quickly, to reach different people all over. And I got different clients throughout the country at first, and then eventually connected with a couple people online and met some different people throughout the world, which was pretty awesome. So now it's just been trying to tweak it and reach more people and create, solutions to the problems that they have.
All right, so we got introduced to Sam there, got a little bit of his background. And you may have noticed that, he talked a little bit about twice exceptional students, where students that have, or kids that have like an incredible gift, but they also have some sort of impairment or something, or so that's why they're twice exceptional. And I just want you to, all the viewers out there, to know that just because Sam primarily works with that segment of kids doesn't mean that everything he's about to say doesn't apply to your kids too. Okay, so if you're thinking, oh, well, my kid's not twice exceptional, this doesn't really apply to me, that's not the truth. All right, everything we're about to talk about in the upcoming interview applies to all kids equally. So pay attention. And again, if you have questions or comments, throw them in the chat box and I'll do my best to answer them. So let's get into the meat of it, part 2.
That they're facing right now that you would have solutions to.
A lot of students are defined by their weaknesses. A lot of people we have sort of a production-based education system where a student might have an off-the-charts IQ and ability to understand content, but when it comes down to it, they can't write.
Yeah.
And the problem is that the writing, the focus is on the production, not on the ability and understanding. Like we're fixated on these like lower level blooms, things like, can you remember, right? When you have a kid that is making a satire of what you're teaching, because they understand it, they're making inferences, they're really thinking critically and creatively. So the problems, to answer your question, would be, how do you grant these students a space where they can thrive, right? How do you connect them with content that's appropriate for what they're capable of and focus on that, and then help them develop the skills to operate at that level and show the rest of the world that they can do it, right? Actually get their things done, turn in their homework, remember that they have homework in the first place, outline an essay, do all that stuff, but do it around the stuff that they love, which could be like the history of coding or whatever it may be.
Awesome. Yeah, I get that a lot. I work with a lot of students myself that are like very intelligent, and when I work with them, it's like obvious, immediately, like they can have a very intelligible conversation with me, but then they're failing their classes because they can't get their homework in on time, or they're missing appointments or missing projects. So it's like you said, it's very production focused at times, and we kind of miss that whole other aspect of like, well, what is education really supposed to be? What is school supposed to be? It's supposed to be helping develop this person so that they can become a mature, functional adult that operates in the world, but also like full of joy and cultivating their knowledge and their interests. Yeah.
One of the things that really bothers me is that school like converges to the mean. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. We don't, as a culture here in the United States, we don't really celebrate like average that much, right? Like we want freakishly gifted people in narrow fields.
Yep.
But education rounds out people's edges, right? We want someone that can follow the same rules, do the same thing, and sit in their seat. But we worship Elon Musk's and
LeBron
James, and people that don't do a lot of things well. They do one thing incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, part of the inception to Young Scholars Academy was, how can we grant students a little bit of time each week to sharpen their edges? How can we give them time to really focus on the things that make them unique and just like dive down that hole?
That's great, because it feels really almost counterintuitive to, I think, like what a lot of people would believe, and it's very going in the opposite direction, to be like, well, instead of just getting everyone to be the average same, let's take these individual differences and actually heighten them and increase them and amplify them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't agree. I couldn't agree with that more.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So I know that the pandemic has been very disruptive for a lot of families and for parents in particular, just trying to manage, I would imagine, especially with twice exceptional students. Do you have any specific tips or strategies or ideas to kind of like help parents get everything back on track during these pandemic times?
I would say don't try to get things back on track.
Okay.
I would say get off the track and stay off it. A lot of people have sort of awoken from this slumber, and you're right. Like if you have a neurodivergent child, and I don't, by the way, I'm an educator, not a parent, not yet. If you have a neurodivergent child, twice exceptional child, differently wired child, last year was hard. I'm sure.
I can only imagine.
I had a lot of parents crying to me that they just need a break. They're not used to spending these 40 hours a week with their kids and then having their students home, and then of course all the changes in routine that a lot of like our students struggle with. So last year was crazy, but let's take that and kind of dissect it and figure out what can we do with that information. We had this really messy year. Let's collect data. Let's figure out what worked, what didn't work, what did we learn about our students, and let's work together and create an ideal learning environment, right? In the home and at school, whatever school looks like. It may not be going back to the same place you were before. It may be creating a hybrid. It may be getting internships. It could be so many different things, but I think the worst thing that we could do right now is get back on track and go backwards to where we were, because we've awoken from this slumber, and it would be a shame if we just went back to sleep.
That's actually really cool. That's like it's beautiful framing of this pandemic, where so many people have viewed it as like a terror, right? You're like, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity. We've awoken from our slumber, and now it's time for change.
Yeah, and that's not to mitigate. Like, people struggled.
Oh,
It
yeah.
sucked. I mean, it was really tough. And it should be noted that socioeconomically there was a lot of discrimination as well, right? People that didn't struggle as much as people that have not. Some people were not able to get enough food, right? Other people were not facing that problem.
Didn't have access to technology.
Yeah, no Wi-Fi, no
to
computers,
go on,
right?
Yeah, and do remote learning.
Yeah. So there are many confounding factors. I'm just saying, if you have the privilege and the ability to reflect, don't rush back into the way things were. Do just that. Dissect the system, reflect, empower your student to work with you, and create, again, with more agency, create ideal learning environments.
Okay, very cool. And for students specifically, maybe even the neurodivergent ones, do you have any tips for them or strategies to kind of help get them through the pandemic?
Yeah, I would say, think about what's working and think about what isn't, and don't just rinse and repeat. Similar to the advice I just gave, it's so important that we get off the hamster wheel. Right? A lot of students do the same thing and they get frustrated, and people always say, you stink at this, and then the students start to absorb it, like, I'm so bad at writing papers. And if we can allocate time to reflect, and there needs to be different prompts and so forth, asking students what energizes you, what makes you feel the most fatigued, what helps you feel accomplished, what vibrates you, like what makes you really feel as if you are doing something meaningful, and then turn that into a metacognitive reflection too. Where do you work the best? At what time do you work the best? Really think about, again, we do have a production-based model. Think about when and where you're producing the best. And let's get more agency from our students to our teachers. Hey, you asked me to write an essay. I do struggle with essays. Could I create a short video for you? Is it okay if I record an audio recording? I read the book and I get it, and I know you need to know that I get it. So can I show you a different way? Or I'm having trouble reading, but my family has Audible. Is it okay if I listen? Or can I watch the movie instead and do a review of that? I'd like to see more students finding their voices and communicating with adults, with their teachers, with their parents, and explaining what they need.
I just laugh a little bit because I was writing this article earlier today, and it was like literally what you're just saying, like one. Yeah, cheers to that. I totally agree. I feel like, students don't advocate for themselves enough, and it's, when I was a teacher, I was shocked by how little students reached out to me to ask for help, or even when I was like pleading with them, I was like, if you don't understand, please like email me and ask. And so I think it's really cool that, like, for some students, it would never even occur to them to be like, well, instead of writing an essay, maybe I could just do an audio file or do a video or something like that. And you putting that out there is just, like, I think great for some students just to be able to hear that, and not at least that idea is in their head.
Yeah, I think it's good to always start from a place of, like, what is this person looking for, right? And some teachers are just going to be jerks, and they're going to want that essay.
Of course.
And some of them aren't jerks, and they want that essay. and the fact of the matter is, maybe their benchmark is to teach content and writing, and those are important things, right? As parents, as educators, and as children, we all understand the importance of writing. However, when you can find someone where you can say, what do they want? Well, they want to see that I understand. Okay, well, how can I show them I understand in a way that aligns with me? So, will it always work? No, but it's worth a try.
Yeah.
All right, so in that segment, Sam talked about how we can actually view this pandemic as an opportunity rather than just some terrible thing that happened. No doubt it's been tough, and it has been tough, and it was tough, and it still is, but you could also frame it in a different light. You could use this as an opportunity to start communicating more with your kids, starting asking them questions like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where do you learn the best? What interests you most? What fires you up? And I know, at least when I was a teenager, I wasn't very forthcoming with those kinds of things. My parents would be like, well, how was school today? Or what did you do? I was just like, fine, And sometimes you really need to just, like, practice, like, really getting in there and giving them attention and asking, good questions rather than just like the generic, how are you, or whatever. And you make it a practice, and then, kids will start to open up more. At least I know I would back in the day. If someone actually, like, asked me a good question that I actually had to stop and think about. And so, it's really about building that communication and finding out what your kids are really interested in, what their passions are, and how they work the best. So now in this next segment, we're going to talk about building a vision. And I think vision is so important, because if you have a vision, then you have something to work towards. So, for example, like when I was in school, I knew I wanted to be like a scientist or an engineer or something like that. And so I had a vision of going to college and getting a good degree. And so I naturally did my homework. I naturally studied for tests because I wanted to get good grades, because I wanted to get into college and I wanted to get a degree. Now, if your kid or your student doesn't have that vision, they don't have that thing to connect their education to, well, then they're probably not going to be as likely to want to work for it. All right. So if you can help ask them questions, ask them, like what they want to be when they grow up, or how they view their life in the future, and then connect their education to that, they're going to be way more likely to actually put in the effort to make that vision a reality. So Sam and I are going to talk about that right now.
It's worth trying. And then another thing you touched on that I was also writing about was just like building a vision. There were so many times where I'd ask my students, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, I don't know. And it's not because necessarily they didn't know, but it's just like they never really thought about it. So I think it's great that you want to, like, ask, like, well, what are your strengths, or what are your interests, and, like, really just building a vision for, what kind of person they want to be in the future. And then And then once you have that vision, then it's like now you have something to work towards, and it's connected to your present. Like education makes more sense because like, oh, I'll learn math or English because it'll help me become like this or whatever this future vision is. So
yeah, goal setting is so important, and again, as you said, you know, a lot of the times when people have something to work toward, they find the motivation, they find the time, they find all these things, and a lot of our students don't. And I think that we often do it wrong. We often say, what are you going to do when you grow up, right? Which I think a better question is, what do you do right now that excites you? You know, what makes you feel alive? What hurts you? What are some pain points? You know, what are some problems that you want to solve? And start from inside instead of outside. Like we say, here are these jobs, which one are you going to pick? Instead of saying like, what are your strengths and preferences, and which one of those jobs will fit those? You know, so
okay,
that's important.
Yeah, so since you're talking about, you know, interests and passions, I just wanted to ask, you know, why do you believe that passion-based learning is so important for students at this point in time?
Ultimately, you know, the thing that makes life so exciting is diversity, right? It's the things that make us different. This guy, Jonathan Mooney, wrote this book called Normal Sucks. It's a great book. I recommend
I like
the
it.
neurodiverse community definitely should read it. It's about living with like different diagnoses, but I love that title. And yeah, you know, we are not one passion, but we are like the exploration of our interests. And what sets us apart, what makes us unique, are these niche things. I think about, I can't remember the guy's name. Well, let's take Dr. Fauci, right? Like the foremost expert in the United States on the pandemic, became very relevant during the pandemic, right? We didn't need average people that have an opinion about a pandemic. We wanted the foremost guy. And how did he get there? He probably got there by exploring his interests, right?
I would imagine so.
So that's a lonely life, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So we need people to do that because that's what solves real problems. That's what cures diseases. That's what helps people, right? We need people to really, from like a humanistic, psychological perspective, we need people to like self-actualize. We want them to be the best versions of themselves that are achieving, that are important, that feel plugged in. And as a society, we need to, you know, water these seeds and help them grow so that they can help us breathe, they can help us do all the things that we need.
Yeah, making this next generation able to tackle the problems of the future.
And the problems now.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, so I really see in the education space now, like technology is just ubiquitous. Like everyone has a laptop and a smartphone, and like it's everywhere, it's all around us. And so the education world's really been evolving a lot. And I'm just wondering how you see this passion-based learning style fitting into education in the future and impacting education in the future. Like how do you see it changing the way we do things?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the death of libraries, right? Like I hope that doesn't happen. I do love a library, but people can learn anything from anywhere as long as they have internet connection now, right? You need a phone or a computer. Most people's phones are faster than their computers now, right? So it's important that we teach digital literacy and teach our students how to navigate this place safely. There's a lot of bad stuff out there. There's some great stuff. And it's the first time in history when it's really becoming democratized, right? We use Wikipedia all the time. We don't really talk about the fact that you used to have to buy a massive collection of encyclopedias to be able to learn stuff. Now you just click links and it's free.
And it's also like when Wikipedia was just coming out, everyone was like, well, I don't know how accurate this is. So like on my papers, they were like, you're allowed to use one Wikipedia source. And now it's just like everyone uses it.
Yeah, it's just, there's just so much content out there. And, you know, we can all be enrolled in the internet all the time, right? You don't need to go to graduate school and keep going. I mean, you can if that's your goal, but if you just want to learn, you can never stop. There's so much content to learn. So I think it's important that we teach students how to occupy this space appropriately, and then how to offer and develop in this space, right? Having them, you know, being a YouTuber, being a blogger, being a game streamer. Like these weren't careers before.
Yeah, they are now though.
They are now. And now, ironically, I had this realization when I started Young Scholars Academy. You know, like the things that your students are probably distracted by when they're in school are probably the things that are going to pay their bills. You know, you want them to study history in your history class, and they're daydreaming about a video game they're going to create. Make the game. You know, teach your student how to make the game. Explore the passion. That's going to probably be the most joyous learning, the most meaningful life, and if it's a big giant failure, it's still a great experience, right?
Absolutely.
So it's so important that we teach students to use the internet, use all the technology available, because it really has lowered the bar for people to enter the workforce. You know, high school students are making passive income now by creating online content.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, you know, shut that down so they do a better job in AP. Like, curate and support both, I think.
Yeah. And I don't want to get too far off topic, but even in the crypto world, there's like games coming out where you can play to earn and actually earn money just playing video games. Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You know, and that'll develop in a few years, and maybe that'll become a, you know, primary income source for people. Who knows?
I had a student in 2017 that was like, I'm going to move to Nevada and start a Bitcoin farm. And I was like, all right. And just like it had just tanked. You know, Bitcoin had gone up to like 19,000 and then fell. And I was like, I don't think that's going to be very lucrative. And, you know, if he had done that, like a renewable thing, I hope he didn't listen to me.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. He'd be probably upset
because
right
he's
now.
probably doing just fine. So yeah, these students, they can use technology and they can learn so much and see these gaps and create solutions.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about passions and passion-based learning, and I was just curious. You know, you're an expert on the matter. Like, do you recommend that students just they explore many things and then like find a few things they like, or if they already have like one thing that they like, just like stick to that and hammer it to that and become like a master in that?
You know, this is a tough one. I don't know that anyone, you know, can be expected to just have a passion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always asking myself, like, what's mine? And I'm in this business. I think it's important that we teach exploration, and we teach curiosity, and we teach creativity, because let's face it, like what someone's interested in high school, I can speak for myself, is probably still going to be relevant later, but won't be the thing that they do the rest of their lives. So I think teaching the process is so important, teaching how to explore, teaching how to connect with our feelings and think about like what matters to us and what's relevant, and then teach how to learn more about it and develop like a value offer is so important. But I don't know, I don't think we should just tell them each to get one passion and then just stick with it. But I think teaching the exploration and the curiosity is so important.
Okay.
And then
just let them kind of figure it out on their own, like just let them be drawn to whatever it is that
and scaffold it on the side. Okay, that's amazing. You know, what are some of the different experts in the field saying? And then, okay, that's incredible. What are some of the problems in the field? What would be some creative solutions? What are some of the solutions proposed? You know, and get them to kind of put together like a mission statement, what I call like a value articulator. You know, like what are you going to now do in this field? What contribution are you going to make? Where are people's pain points? What do people need? And that can be like cross-sectional, where they're just like taking what other people are doing and adding commentary, or that can be their own, you know, dive into the world as they offer something or do something different.
Awesome.
All right, in that segment, we really talked about how technology is really shaping the world around us, and everything's advancing at such a rapid pace. And things are way, way different, and school is way, way different from even when I was in high school, which wasn't crazy long ago. And yeah, there's so many more opportunities. Like even when I was in high school, like Facebook didn't exist, TikTok didn't exist. And now being like a professional YouTuber and Instagram star and TikToker and influencer, those are like careers that people pursue now. It's kind of wild. So, you know, you got to slow down and really be open to this new path that lies ahead. When I was growing up, I had one idea. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to get a college degree and then I'm going to get a job after that. That was my playbook. That's all I had. And that was fine. You know, like I did that Sam did that. My parents did that. We all got jobs. It worked. But there's this whole other crop of possibilities out there beyond just going to the university, getting a degree, and getting a job route. So, I knew that there were like entrepreneurs out there, but I thought that was like some other type of person. But, here I am. I quit my engineering job and now I'm an entrepreneur and building an online business. So if your kids are interested in pursuing something like that, don't just shut it down. Help them explore it a little bit and dive deeper and see if there's really something there. Because who knows, maybe that kid that Sam mentioned, if he really did, go start a crypto Bitcoin farm in Nevada back in 2017. I mean, I don't know if you don't know anything about cryptocurrency, just know that Bitcoin since 2017 is probably like went up 100 times. So that kid, if he actually did it, is probably doing really well right now. And maybe that is his whole career for the rest of his life, just dabbling in cryptocurrency. Who knows? So just be open to the multiple paths that are available and that are out there. So in this final segment, we're almost done. I know you're probably very sad about that. I know I am. Sam's just going to really give you some good resources that he has available that you can use to implement stuff at home as a parent, and just stuff that you can watch in videos and PDFs. So stick around for that. We got one last segment here. Let's dive into it.
So there was one project in particular that I wanted to talk to you about. You were telling me before about how one of your most successful classes was when you actually built a motorcycle from the ground up with your students. Yeah. And they raved about it. And it's interesting courses like that I think really make an impression on students and last a long time with them. And I'm just curious, what do you think it was about that class in particular that made it so successful and so impactful for students?
I think there's two things that happen. One, I let go of what I thought it meant to be a teacher. I wasn't lecturing anymore. I wasn't collecting assignments. And I had two courses like that. One, we built a 1956 pickup truck, the truck that I drive. Mm-hmm. And the other one was the motorcycle course. And they were both 1 to 2 year classes. But it was real. You had to do what you were assigned or else the project didn't move on. It wasn't this conceptual answer questions 1 through 5 on page 500, right? If you didn't do the research, we couldn't take the thing apart. And so there was a sense of everything was group dynamic. Everybody had a role to play. And if you didn't play it, we all suffered. And so the pressure was on. And there was also some exclusivity. I would do tryouts for the class. Mm-hmm. I'd give people different engineering projects. So it was kind of like a badge of honor to get in. I think that element played a big role. But just the fact that, after a 7-hour school day, getting oily, getting your hands dirty using some tools is a nice change of pace. I had a student that would skip the whole day and come in just for the last class, and we had to actually make an agreement that he had to be there the whole day to go to class. But there's just something nice, again, for these kinesthetic, tactile learners.
Yeah, something tangible with real consequences too. All right, I didn't do my homework, I get a bad grade, whatever. But
if you want to see this bike run.
Yeah, if you want to see this bike run.
We only have this many days.
And then it's also and then if I don't do it, then all of my friends also aren't getting to see the bike run.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's real, and for a lot of, again, ADHD and other students, the pressure is good. It creates an element of focus. Okay, I only have 30 minutes to get this thing apart and organized. And you're taking kids that stuff papers in a backpack and having them label different washers and put them in an egg carton, but it mattered to them. Mm-hmm. So it was really cool.
Do you think there's ways that parents at home could implement this kind of project-based learning style to, supplement their typical school?
Yeah, I actually just started a class that I call Young Scholarship. Mm-hmm. Which is this. It's how students can create. We meet 1 hour a week, and it's launching soon. 10/25, October 25th. Enrollment's open until the 24th. Go to youngscholarsacademy.org. But the goal is that. It's to create an out-of-school offer. Parents can absolutely do it too. What I offer is community, because I think it's important that kids check in with one another. But parents can do that too. Create a makerspace, calendar it into your students' daily, weekly calendar and say, from this time to this time after school on this day, we're going to work on X, Y, or Z. and the goal is this, and it could be getting an internship or whatever it may be.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's really important. School doesn't need to stop at the four walls.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, learning really never stops.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so Young Scholars Academy, what sets you apart from, say, other online type schools that are out there? Like, what makes you special?
There's a lot of like online, there's a lot of great programs out there, right? There's a lot of enrichment. There's a lot of great kind of playlist style, go at your own pace learning. Young Scholars Academy is unique in that we've created a bit of a community of learners that keep coming back because they want more than what the class is about. It doesn't stop at history. No one class is about one thing. They're all about preparing for the journey that is life.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in Young Scholars Academy is about developing your passion and your strength, and also working on the area in which you struggle in preparation for, the great world out there. And so it's really about creating a community, connecting and making friends, and having a great time learning while focusing on developing those two halves of our students.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finding more and more as I get older that how important community is. I was like kind of like a shy, nerdy, kind of awkward kid, and I mostly kept to myself. Not that there was anything wrong with that, but I feel like if I would have at least reached out and joined some sort of club, if it was like Dungeons and Dragons club or building a motorcycle club, it would have just helped me bond more with my peers, and then also probably feel more bonded to my school and just develop social skills in general. And now as an adult, like I'm on 4 calls per week, like just talking with people and like sharing and being vulnerable. And so I think that's awesome that you're like just building community and like getting kids involved. That's really cool.
I think it's the number one thing that these students need. A lot of our neurodiverse students fit the profile like what you're talking about, like your childhood. They struggle to connect with other people, and they need a space that's theirs that they can claim and say, like, other students are like me, and they're quirky and they're different, and they like the memes I like, and they read the stuff I read. Because of the asynchrony of a lot of our students, they have a hard time maybe connecting with like neurotypical students their same age. And so having a space where they can all be themselves and realize that there's other people like them is so important, I think.
Yeah, it is important just to realize that there are other people out there like me. I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, so are there any resources you'd like to share with families or parents, like videos, websites, anything that you can think of?
Yeah, I've got a bunch. I try to post something like every week. If you go to youngscholarsacademy.org, there's a resources tab and there's the blog tab, and they both have either, I'll do an interview a month with like an expert in the field, people that I think need to be in front of parents and other professionals. Like everyone needs to hear from these people. I make sure I get them on the website, and then I try to do a resource every other week or so. So we have all kinds of stuff from some of the things we talked about today, creating the 5 non-negotiables for creating a neurodiverse learning environment, passion exploration, executive function, skill development, helping students get organized and stay organized. There's a myriad of different things on there. Some of them are PDFs, some are videos, but there's all kinds of stuff. youngscholarsacademy.org, resources tab.
Great, and if there's any of those PDFs or resources that you want to just send over to me, I can put them in the description of the video, and then viewers can just access it right from there as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you've already mentioned it a couple times, but if there's are there any other places people can find you besides Young Scholars Academy?
I'm
YouTube, social media.
Yeah. I do a little YouTubing. I'm on Facebook a lot more. If you go to facebook.com/YSA Enrichment.
Mm-hmm.
Still working on getting on Instagram a bit more, but definitely check on the website. My email is Young Scholars Academy LA. There's a lot of Young Scholars Academy. Young Scholars Academy LA @gmail. But yeah, go to youngscholarsacademy.org, and Young Scholars Academy Facebook is YSA Enrichment. Those are the top 2 places I hang out the most.
Amazing. And you do a live stream weekly. You mentioned that.
I've been doing.
What time is it at?
Yeah, that's Tuesdays. I won't be going live next Tuesday, but every Tuesday after that. Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Pacific time. I do what I call brown bagging with Mr. Sam, just having lunch with me and talking about neurodiversity and twice exceptionality in education. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Cheers.
It's
been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all your knowledge. And I encourage everyone to go check out Sam's website. He's done incredible things in the education space, and it's only going to keep getting better. So you want to get in now on the ground floor before it becomes untouchable, this guy.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it. Greg's amazing.
Thank you. All right. Well, hopefully we'll see you again soon.
I would love to be back. Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so that was my interview with Sam. I hope you guys found it very helpful and informative. I know I learned a lot just by interviewing him and asking him those questions. So I thought it was really great. And now we got a special treat for you. We're actually going to share a couple of those resources and videos from Sam's website that he was talking about, so you can get an idea of exactly what's on there. So we're going to share a 3-minute interview and a 3-minute like little resource that Sam helps for, particularly with neurodiverse students. So let's go ahead and we're going to do breaking the barrier cycle first. So let me just share the screen here. All right.
Parents, do you ever feel like you're caught in a cycle where year after year your child goes back to school and things start out great, but then before you know it, everything comes crashing down? If you can relate to that, you're going to want to watch this video. Effective management systems are made up of 3 key parts, and today we're going to explore all 3 parts and how your child can create an effective management system so that this year can help them escape the cycle. The first key element is going to be a quick capture system. This can include anything from having sticky notes to a pocket journal to a notebook where your student writes down things as they come up. Could be a thought in the middle of the night or an assignment that is instructed by a teacher. My quick capture system consists of multicolored sticky notes and a pocket journal that I carry with me at all times. Your students can use whatever they see fit. The second key element is the most important, and that is the prioritization system. Now, without it, students are just playing whack-a-mole. Things pop up and they attempt to do that. Without a system in place to prioritize, we're simply reacting and not responding. My priority system is the Eisenhower matrix. Now, this is slightly more advanced, but it's a fantastic system once you get it going. Tasks are put into 4 different quadrants: do, schedule, delegate, and eliminate. And the matrix is comprised of 4 different elements: important, not important, and urgent, non-urgent. Students are required to place the different assignments or tasks that they have into these different areas and then respond to them in the appropriate order. This brings us over to step 3. Once we've done our quick capture, we then input our captured ideas and tasks into a prioritization system. We then move over to our to-do list, what we call the planning phase. And this is when we put together our daily or weekly to-do list and begin executing our tasks. There are many different to-do list platforms and templates and technologies that we can use. I'm old school and I like to write things down, so I use a time box. This allows me to estimate how much time my tasks will take and then cross them off when they're done. I hope that this video resource is helpful for you and that this year we can equip your students to escape the cycle of getting buried by work. Help them create a 3-pronged system that will get them ahead of the curve, planning, engaging, and completing tasks so that they can have a stellar year. If this video resource was helpful for you, please comment below and tell us some of the ways in which your students have implemented these systems, or write questions or concerns that you have about your students' current systems or lack thereof. Additionally, head on over to youngscholarsacademy.org and check out our other video resources. Thank you and keep thriving.
All right, so that was a great little video about just so you know, a simple little system to help organize tasks and prioritize tasks, which is like a big thing in executive functioning. And I've noticed as a tutor that my best students, the ones that are most successful, are the ones that are most organized. And then there's also these other students that I run into that are very intelligent, but they forget homework assignments, they can't put stuff on their calendar, they miss appointments, and their grades suffer because of it. So that was a great little 3 minutes of just how you can make a system to help get a little bit more organized. And now we got a little bit of about a 4-minute video clip of Sam interviewing Siobhan, she's a very expert in her field. And again, this is just going to be a little taste. This is actually like a 45-minute interview in total. So if you really like what you hear, you can, again, just go and check out Sam's website at youngscholarsacademy.org. All right, but for right now, we're just going to check out this little interview, full screen it, and enjoy.
What's one thing that parents of twice exceptional learners here in America, we're just going back to school, what's one thing that they might do after watching this, going into the school year, to perhaps support their students, whether it be at home, in school, anywhere?
I'll give you a few things. I can't do one.
Good.
The first one is connect to the twice exceptional, gifted, neurodivergent community in your area. Find out who they are, where they are, and connect to them. Make sure that if your child is autistic, you are speaking to autistic adults. If your child has ADHD, you are speaking to ADHD adults. Make sure you connect with the adults that your children will be one day. The second thing I can say is always speak through strength-based narratives. Don't look at your child through deficit-based, because even if you're not saying it to them, they can hear it, they can feel it. So look at your child through a strength base. Spend about 3/4 of your child's time on what they love and only 1/4 of the time on what your child doesn't love. So I'll give you an example with my own child. My little boy is in year 6 at school. He's doing year 8 to year 9 maths, but he's benchmarked at a year 3 to year 4 English level. A lot of people say, well, you have to pick up that benchmark, spend more time with him on his deficits. But my son is very happy. He knows he's very smart. And I say to him, sweetheart, the only place in this world that pays mediocrity is the education system. Once you're out of school, it's the people that are incredibly good at one thing that are successful. And you've got that in spades. Don't worry about it. We'll get you through the education system. But I want him to get through the education system being proud of who he is and thinking he rocks, which means no more than 25% of his time on what he's not good at. Then another thing that teachers do way too often, and I think they do it, I don't think, they do it because they're meaning well, is they use your child's interests in their deficit areas. Do not do that. You are dirtying the waters. And all that happens then is your child will start not to like whatever that interest area is. So any child really, if you say you only have to spend 10 minutes on this, and then you get to spend the next 4 hours on what you love to do, they'll suck it up and spend 10 minutes on it. Don't dirty it with their interests. Then a big one, and again, this can change, but most of the time, I'll tell you, I believe that schools and teachers and parents and children are all disenfranchised by the same education system. So really make sure you understand that you're all in the same boat and you have to work on the same team for your child. Because if you start to become combative, you will start to not tell each other the truth. And if you don't know the truth about what's happening at school, and the school doesn't know the truth about what's happening at home, your child will not move forward as quickly or as fast. So we need to ensure that we are one team, we are working together. Yes, the education system can be horrible and we're all disenfranchised by the same system, but we are working together.
All right. So that was just a little clip of a much longer interview. So if you're interested in learning more about that, and especially if you have a neurodivergent kid with some sort of learning difference, it's a great interview to watch. You can head on over to youngscholarsacademy.org. Again, there's lots of great resources, and I'll put links to everything in the description of the video so you can find it all there as well. So, just closing, I just like to say that, again, what the main things we hit on today is passion-based learning is so important. Communication with your kids is so important. And just being open-minded to new pathways moving forward into the future. So there's going to be a lot of things being created as we move forward into the future, and if that means becoming a TikTok star or a crypto miner or just being an accountant, or being an engineer, all of those are valid. All of those are good. So just go deep down, explore, and have fun with it. This life is supposed to be fun. So enjoy yourselves, have a good time, and I will see you next time on Pandemic Parenting.